Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Well, after Alexander Povetkin basically failed his drug test and that fight was basically postponed or canceled, obviously Deontay Wilder, he has to remain active, so he went out searching for a new opponent, and I believe they found one today because it was just reported today that Deontay Wilder's next opponent will be Chris Arreola. You know, it's funny because, of course, when you're dealing with fighters on a coincidental list, it's always the same story, just a different date and different names. But it's always involving a fighter on the coincidental list, and it's always the exact same story. For example, this story reminds me of the Terence Crawford situation. When Terence Crawford was actually trying to pursue a Victor Postal fight, according to Terence Crawford, they actually turned down the fight before the Hank Lundy fight, right? So when they turned that fight down, Crawford then called out fighters like Ruslan Provodnikov and Mauricio Herrera. Now, I want you guys to think about this for a second. What do decafs, people like Jim Lampley, who is basically the grand wizard of the decafs, what do these decafs try to teach other decafs in the boxing world? They are always trying to spread the message that aggressive fighters, knockouts, blood, drama, this is what fans want to see. And they always try to use this as an excuse for why they don't like fighters on the coincidental list, by trying to stereotype every single fighter on the coincidental list and suggest that they're all boring, etc., etc. If you're not getting knockouts, if you're not getting this and that, then we don't want to watch you. This is what we want to see, right? So with me explaining that, let's go back to the Crawford versus Ruslan Provodnikov situation. If these fans claim they want to see knockouts, they want to see drama, they want to see excitement, then wouldn't you want to see Wilder versus Chris Arreola? Wouldn't you want to see Terence Crawford versus Ruslan Provodnikov? You know, in both of those fights, somebody is getting knocked out. You know it, right? So if you have a fight with these type of ingredients, like Jim Lampley would put it, the Artur Gatti ingredients, right? You have these type of ingredients to this fight. And keep in mind, once again, this fight is taking place because the number one contender, Alexander Povetkin, he was fucking around with PEDs. That's why we're not getting that fight, okay? So first of all, if you were even to try to compare Deontay Wilder's situation to anyone else's situation, it wouldn't be the same thing, all right? You couldn't compare Wilder's situation to Canelo Alvarez or a Gennady Golovkin. You can't compare him to them because Wilder, he was actually willing to fight the guy that fans said he was afraid of, right? Because I hear a lot of people always making the comparisons to Canelo or whoever. You know, when a fan wants to defend Canelo, he'll just throw Deontay Wilder's name out there, right? Or Floyd Mayweather's name. He'll throw some fighter's name out there when these fighters really have nothing in common with Canelo Alvarez's situation. But now when I think about it, Deontay Wilder and Canelo Alvarez, they were in the same situation at one point. That is when they had a proposal to either fight a certain fighter or give up their belt. They were both in that situation. And we know what both fighters did in that situation. Deontay Wilder said, I ain't giving up my belt for nothing. He flew to Russia to fight Povetkin in his own backyard, right? What did Canelo do? Canelo gave up his belt. And he said, you know, us Mexicans don't fuck around. And, you know, I told Golovkin to come in the ring and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to negotiate with him. I'm going to kick his ass next. He said all of that shit and gave up his belt. And now they're talking about Canelo fighting against Liam Smith next, or even Gabe Rosado, right? And even Gabe Rosado doesn't even want to come down to 155 to Canelo's catchweight and fight him. So the point is, don't try to make a comparison that ain't even apples and oranges, because the comparison is apples and rocks if you really think about it. Going back to Deontay Wilder versus Chris Arreola, always look for consistency when you listen to what these decafs are trying to convey. Because when they contradict themselves, then the actual truth comes out. For example, if Gennady Golovkin, if he's fighting against Marco Antonio Rubio, if he's fighting against Willie Monroe, if he's fighting against Adama, if he's fighting against Dominic Wade, and the list goes on and on and on. How many articles do you see criticizing the shit out of Gennady Golovkin, saying this fight is going to make the fans so mad that Golovkin is fighting Adama next, that Golovkin is fighting Willie Monroe next? How many articles, how many comments do you guys see criticizing Gennady Golovkin for fighting Willie Monroe next, for fighting Adama next? You don't find too many of them, right? And the reason why you don't find too many is because this is when they use the Gaddy excuse, right? We just want to see action. We want to see knockouts. That's why we like this guy so much. But when it comes to Deontay Wilder, despite the fact that we're going to see the exact same thing that we just seen in that Golovkin fight, we're going to see a knockout. We're going to see excitement. On top of all of that, we're going to see charisma from Deontay Wilder. We're going to see him sell the fight. We're going to get to watch entertaining press conferences building up to the fight, right? We're going to see all of these things, but the main thing we're going to see is a knockout, something that, once again, these decafs that write some of these articles and post comments in the comment section, they claim that's what they want to see. All of a sudden, when Deontay Wilder is offering that, now they don't want to see it. Why is that? It's obvious. Because they claim they want to see knockouts, but it depends on who's getting knocked out. Because when it's Dominic Wade, when it's Adama, when it's Willie Monroe getting knocked out, oh, that Gaddy philosophy, it applies. But the shit doesn't apply if it's a fighter who's not on the coincidental list. You know, like a fighter on the Gaddy list, a fighter who has his Hope insurance. If it's a fighter like Chris Arreola, who will most likely get knocked out, now all of a sudden, they don't like all that blood and guts. They don't like all, that's way too much excitement for them then. You see how it works? So this is exactly what some of these writers and some of these decafs in the comment section, this is what they're basically trying to tell us when they say stuff like, oh, people are going to criticize this fight. Many people don't want to watch this fight, etc., etc. What they really mean is they do not want to see Chris Arreola get knocked out by a guy on the coincidental list. They do not want to see Ruslan Provodnikov get knocked out by a guy on the coincidental list like Terence Crawford. If their guy is not going to win the fight, then they simply change the rules. I understand the psychology of ignorance. I'm telling you right now. When you hear these fans and writers and etc., once again, when you hear them say, we like blood and guts, we like knockouts, that only applies to the fighters that they like. We know that even when they say that, even that's a lie. Because when Gennady Golovkin went in there and fought David Lemieux, that wasn't no damn Mexican-style fight. That was a jabbing contest. And you know what, the same fans who claim they like all this drama and excitement and how these fighters on a coincidental list are so boring because all they do is box, etc., you know what they said when Gennady Golovkin went in there and boxed and just fought behind an educated jab, you know what they said? They said, oh, that's good because that's what he needed to do against a dangerous fighter like David Lemieux. And he showed his boxing skill and his boxing ability. But I'm going to tell you, just like Teddy Atlas told me, when you got damn near 400 amateur fights, I would expect that you know how to use a jab. Okay? It is what you call a classic double standard. Deontay Wilder versus Chris Arreola. Of course, it's not Wilder versus Tyson Fury. It's not Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. But it's what you guys claim you like to watch. There were fans saying that they actually prefer to watch John Molina versus Ruslan Provodnikov because it's an exciting fight. But you don't want to see an exciting fight when it's Deontay Wilder versus Chris Arreola. That is exactly what you claim you guys want to watch. Not at the expense of the fighter that you like losing the fight. And the fighter that you can't stand winning the fight and putting a big ass smile on his face after you watch your guy laying on the ground. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have these double standards that existed? I mean, wouldn't it be nice if Canelo Alvarez was dealing with the exact same amount of pressure, not just from fans in the comment section, but from writers and commentators? Wouldn't it be nice if Canelo was dealing with pressure from them the same way a Deontay Wilder or a Terrence Crawford, fighters on a coincidental list? Wouldn't that be nice if the fighters who really deserve to be dealing with serious criticism was actually receiving it from the most relevant people in the sport of boxing? Deontay Wilder goes to Russia to fight Povetkin, and Povetkin fails his drug test. Now he's fighting Chris Arreola, and you got the nerve to criticize that fight? But the people in the media, they're not criticizing Canelo versus Amir Khan? They're not criticizing Canelo versus Liam Smith? When there is a sea of great fighters that Canelo could fight at 154, even at 147. Wouldn't it be nice if these fighters were held to the same standards that fighters on a coincidental list are? Well, I'll tell you this, those double standards, they will definitely be exposed on this channel, because you ain't gonna get nothing but the whole truth over here on Dante's Boxing Nation. That's all I got for now. I'm on to the next one.